you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new build to the channel, technically my main character, but the Infinite Archive variant of it called Tarnished. And yes, he looks like Batman. While we're in this new house, we're obviously going to put the lights on so you can actually see what the hell is going on in this video, because it's a bit dark. Yes, they come on, aren't they mega? Right, so basically this is designed to take advantage of the base character or design as you may already know it, but twisting it up a little bit for the Infinite Archive so that you can take advantage of lots of different buffs and bonuses that appear inside that location that don't appear anywhere else in the game, i.e. status effect boosting. Now, of course, the previous version of this, the actual all content version, is designed to take advantage of as much single target damage over time as possible, allowing for room to kill other stuff as well. This particular version of it doesn't necessarily separate from that, but you want to make sure that you can apply those single target damage over time abilities on multiple targets. So it's not a case of standing still and doing a rotation all day. It's a case of tracking which ones have got which abilities on them and taking advantage of them for their perks and benefits. So bear in mind, you are going to have to read these skills and understand how they actually function rather than just spamming if you want to get the most out of them. Now, this has been designed on top of the previous version to be as status heavy as possible based on what we have available. So we're going to go into the stats first of all, and then we'll get on to the juicy stuff later. So firstly, we are not using major brutality, so our weapon and spell damage is a bit lower. You can take that from another member in your group if you prefer, if they have molten armaments. If they don't, then you're going to use weapon pots. Outside of that, we are on 13.2k max magicka, 28.6k max health, and 30.4k max stamina. Recovery is 689 magicka, 414 health, and 816 stam recovery. You can change that if you want to use gold food, but bear in mind your health and stamina will go down, so that makes you a bit squishier. Weapon and spell damage at the moment is 3877. That will actually go up to about 5k, a little bit over 5k if you introduce major brutality and minor brutality on top of that. Remember, if you have another DK in your group with you in the Infinite Archive, they can supply molten armaments, and that will give you those bonuses. So you get minor and major brutality at the same time. Our resistance is currently at 19k and 18.3. That can go up if you choose to change one of our skills, which I will go into later, when you get into more difficult arcs. We'll end up with around sort of 24-ish, and then if you take advantage of the pet inside the Infinite Archive, if you do manage to pick that up, there's 3 different morphs to it, but the second version actually gives you minor resolve, or maybe your group's got minor resolve if you're in a duo. You can then go up to almost around the 28k mark. So you can actually be very, very tanky while being really, really agile at the same time. But again, that depends on you and how you set up and how far you go. Pen is relatively low. If you do get into a situation where you've got lots and lots of crit bonuses, you can get up to 30% in the Infinite Archive. Then, of course, during that time, you can quickly nip out to your house, swap out the Thief from Understone for the Lover if you prefer, so you can take advantage of the piercing buff that you get in Infinite Archive if you unlock it. If not, don't even bother taking that for the time being, because it's not going to be that much of a benefit to you. The choice is yours. Maximum stamina, 64 points in there. Thief from Understone as standard. You can change it if you want to later. And flat food. Flat health, flat stamina food. It's the blue stuff. It gives you loads and loads of health, loads and loads of stam, and that's all you need. You will need to heavy attack, but there's a buff in the Infinite Archive to benefit you from heavy attacking anyway, so it's win-win. Crit chance, by the way, at the moment, like I said, is 52%, but it can go up much, much higher, an additional 30. That will give you 82% if you unlock those buffs. But again, if you want to keep that, great. If not, you can go with a Lover Stone later. So skills, this is where it gets interesting. So Venomous Claw obviously is your first skill. It's in the Ardent Flame skill line. Second ability you unlock starts off as Searing Strike, morph it to the Poison variant. This will do damage over time on single target as well as hitting him initially, and it will last a very, very long time. To put this on multiple targets, you are done. But it ramps up. The longer it lasts, the more damage it does, and it guarantees a poison status effect on impact. Basically, make sure every target has that on them if you can help it, and you will be rewarded with easy status effect application. Next up is Barbed Trap. Now, this is a choice. This is a flex slot. Technically speaking, we use this for its main bonus, which is Minor Force. You get this in the Fighters Guild skill line. Starts off as... I can't remember what it starts off as, actually. I always call it Beast Trap, but it starts off as Trap Beast, wrong way around, and it's called Barbed Trap. This will go on the ground, pop after 1.5 seconds, and anyone caught inside of this one trap will be damaged for 20 seconds of bleed elemental damage, if you like. Now, that doesn't mean that all bleed damage is damage over time. It's not. It's an element type, but it has a chance of applying hemorrhage because it is a bleed. This one is quite a high chance because of the skill type, but it's not guaranteed, although it's, again, quite high. When it's active, you have Minor Force for 20 seconds. That is what we really want this here for, apart from passives. If you don't want to use Beast Trap, and if you find that you don't actually end up placing this under the enemy enough to take advantage of the bleed damage on single target, and you're going to have a lot of targets, then of course you can swap this out, especially if you want to take advantage of the scribing system. For those out there that don't have scribing, you can go to the Sigic Order skill line, and you can unlock Race Against Time. You'll have to maintain it, but this will give you your minor fours and make you fast. And it removes immobilizations, which is quite nice. But if you have the scribing system available, if you have Gold Road, then what you need to do is go to your dual wield skill line and basically customize your own skill. So we're going to the Scribe and Alter. You want Traveling Knife, Multi-Target, Linger in Torment, and Force. This will give you access to minor force from long range. It will hit multiple targets, uncapped, so they just have to be close enough, and it will do physical damage over time on all targets, which can, if you're lucky, apply minor breach. And it looks like this. It's very simple. Wrong button. It's not simple enough. Let's swap skills and actually apply this properly, shall we? It is in dual wield after you've unlocked it and created it, if you like, or customized it. Basically, you fling it from 15 meters. They all have damage over time over them now. As you can see, they will constantly tick with damage, and they have a chance of minor breach on every single one of them through duration. That is constant damage over time for a whole 20 seconds and is really, really helpful. Anyway, get rid of those. That is one of 3 options for minor force. Outside of that, of course, you can put on a resistance buff or a heal or whatever you want, but that is what we're using that slot for. Next up is a Consuming Trap. Soul Magic. You get this very early on. Basically, you start with this skill, Soul Trap, for free. All you got to do is morph it. Basically, this skill is a single target damage over time ability. It costs Magicka, yes, but it puts damage on them for 20 seconds. And when the enemy dies, even if you're not the one that kills it, as long as this skill is still present on them, you get 20% of all resources back. Health, Magicka, and Stamina, and yes, that is a heal. Make sure you put this on anything that is about to die or anything that's going to die in the next 20 seconds. You will not struggle with resources. In fact, you can put this on about 4 targets and then just spin to win, and you'll get all your resources back. It's very, 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 very useful, and not enough people use this. Bloodthirst, obviously, dual wield skill line. This is our main spammable. So once you've got dots on something, and the dots are on the ground or on target, then you want to be spamming this. Not only is it a really good morph because it does decent damage and does bleed damage, which can obviously apply hemorrhage, but it also heals you for the damage done. 34% of all damage caused through all the damage that you are doing during this channel will actually heal you. It's really, really simple. The other skills I haven't really demonstrated because they're quite obvious. You just attach to the target, but you need to just light attack, spam, and it'll look a bit like this. And if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, next to my character, I'm constantly healing. And that's a lot. Really simple. Anyway, moving on from there. Spin to win. Dual wield skill line again. Whirling Blades. Starts off as Whirlwind, morph it to Whirling Blades. Any enemies that are under 50% health now take more damage, and they take more and more and more the lower they go. With Bloodthirsty as your jewelry traits and your passes from the dual wield skill line, this gets really, really aggressive, especially if you enhance your direct damage and area of effect bonuses from the Infinite Archive visions. This is very strong. Do not leave home without it. Basically, get loads of enemies' health down, jump into a crowd, and spin. That, alongside your Consuming Trap, will keep your resources up because you kill them quick and you get this back quick. Rend is the dual wield ultimate. Lacerate to start with, morph it to Rend. Within an 8x8 area of effect, this will hit all enemies and they will all equally have a single target damage over time bleed effect on them. During the 16 seconds that they are affected by this, you will constantly heal for 51% of every single tick of damage done. So yes, you are extremely hard to kill. And every single tick guarantees a hemorrhage status effect, which means stacking up to 3 on hemorrhage to get it to its maximum is consistent and ongoing throughout its whole duration. It is absolutely phenomenal. And if you do end up with focused efforts, this will rip rooms apart. Not to mention keep you alive. The other morph of this halves the time. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure you can take advantage of this for as long as possible. So aim down the line at a bunch of enemies, pop this, and then just keep weighing into them. You will not die. Unless, of course, you get hit with a one-shot, in which case you can't out-heal that anyway. This is an amazing ultimate. Don't leave home without it. Basically, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 different individual weapon skill abilities, which means if you get Archival Weaponry as a verse, then you are laughing because you've got 4 additional bonuses to your weapon damage buff. So you can hit really, really hard. Back bar, quite simple. Echo and Vigor from the Assault skill line. Yes, you can use the other one if you prefer, but bear in mind you are probably in there with somebody else unless you're completely solo, and this will help them too. You fire this and it will heal you and another member in your group. Generally speaking, it will heal more, but there's only 2 of you in Infinite Archive. If you go as a duo, you can help each other stay alive. If it's just for you, I actually preference this one. The other one is far shorter and more expensive, and you are at risk of spamming it. Yes, the ticks are faster. The heal's relatively similar, but with a short period of time. I see lots of people using the selfish version, if you like, because it's just for you, and they spam and run out of resources really, really quick. Activate this. Don't use it again for another 16 seconds. Activate it again if you need to. The long duration actually does play out really well alongside of all the healing abilities we have from our skills. Not to mention we actually heal from all our damage anyway. We'll get to that when we get to the gear. Poison injection. This needs to be on as many targets as humanly possible, and I would use it as a lead into a fight if you can, alongside the main floor dot. So, poison injection basically starts off as poison arrow. Attach it to the target, you've got 20 seconds worth of damage over time in the form of poison damage. Remember, DKs do more damage with poison than anybody else in the game. It deals up to 120% more damage the lower their health. So, you've got poison injection, which is poison damage, which the DK loves. You've got poison status effects, which again the DK loves because you get the extra benefit not just from the class, but because poisoned does have a scaling effect to it. Poisoned status does more damage at low health, so you've got an execute built into this. You've got an execute here, and then we've got a literal execute here where you just spin and spin and spin. So if you get these all on the same targets, then they are going to die rapidly, and when they get really, really low health, they're going to die even quicker. Noxus Breath is next. This is in the Ardent Flame skill line alongside our Venomous Claw. Of course, the next one down, and it's got a new color as well, so you can have a blue one. We'll show you that another day, apparently, because I don't have it unlocked on here. But go on to PTS, check it out yourself, see if you like it. This basically fires an area of effect burst, which can hit infinite amount of targets within a 10-meter radius. However, it's a cone effect, by the way. It's a frontal cone. While it can hit infinite amounts of targets, uncapped, the actual damage over time effect and the debuff only affects 6. So this will do poison damage over time for 24 seconds per target, and affect them with a debuff of Major Breach, reducing their resistances by 5, 9, 4, 8. So yes, while our pen is very, very low, we do actually have this debuff with us all the time. So we're pushing sort of 6, almost, well, in fact, nearly 7.5, pushing 8k penetration bonuses. That can be altered depending on who you're with and how you choose to set up your Mundustone. There's lots of different variables that can skew the way you play in the Infinite Archive. Use them to your advantage, and again, read your skills. It's important that you read the skills, otherwise you won't understand how they work with the passives and bonuses and unlocks. Next is in the same skill line, Flames of Oblivion. This is a swap out. While this is on any bar, either bar, so it's going to be on the back one, you will gain Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing your weapon and spell crit rating. Now listen carefully, we don't have Brutality right now. We can gain that, obviously, from potions, or we can gain it from someone else using Molten Armaments in the group, which is really helpful to us. If you find you're in a position where you're always using weapon pots and you're not using tripods, which I do recommend using tripods, then of course Brutality, Prophecy, Savagery are all carried by that potion anyway, so as long as you always maintain them, you'll have them forever. If not, for the time being, this will give you that bonus, and if you activate this once every 15 seconds, it will constantly fire fireballs around at enemies once every 5 seconds. So it will fire initially, and then 3 lots after. This is something you need to maintain. It is very, very powerful. It does direct fire damage, but if you get to a point where the arcs are becoming too difficult, you want to swap this one out. It's a worthy sacrifice for Hardened Armor from the Draconic Power skill line. Activate this, you will have Major Resolve, allowing you to have a much, much higher resistance pool. And of course, you can activate it and get a damage shield initially based on your maximum health. So it's almost a 9.2k damage shield just for turning it on. So that's really, really helpful for your survival. Plus it returns damage if enemies hit you as well. So if you start getting squishy, put this on, take the flames off. If you're not too squishy, keep the flames on as long as you can. Bear in mind, you're going to lose Prophecy and Savagery when you take this off. So if you're using pots or you're not, you might have to sacrifice the crit chance. Up to you, however. Or if you've got a Warden in your room, and they've got a resistance buff anyway, keep this on forever, because they can cover it for you. Easy peasy. Arrow Barrage. Yes, this is a complicated build. This is my main character. I play it all the time, and this is going to take you a little bit to get into if you're not used to it. If you are used to it, however, you're going to find this quite easy. Arrow Barrage instead of Volley. This will put a big circle of damage over time on the ground. Once a second, the enemies will be hit, but it takes 2 seconds to wind it up. It's physical damage. Of course, with it being AoE, it will actually trigger your back bar glyph, even if you're on the front bar. So this must be active at all times. Don't spam it, but make sure it lands and hits something. If it doesn't hit something, your glyph won't trigger. And our glyphs fire really, really fast. This also is going to be supported by one of our sets. And finally, the last ultimate. The last ultimate you want to get is the Earth and Heart ultimate, Magma Shell. This will basically make it so that every single hit you receive will be no more than 3% of your maximum health, regardless of how hard it hits, unless it is a guaranteed designed one-shot. During that time, any enemies that are close will take flame damage over time. Yes, that can proc flame status effects, much like any other flame damage can. And your allies nearby, so they need to be bloody close, also get a damage shield worth 100% of their maximum health. This is actually very, very powerful as an oh shit button for you and them, so use it wisely. Don't just spam it every time you see it. Make sure you use your front bar ultimate as much as you can and use this one in a big, big problem scenario. So, Latfilan, for example, if you're up against that Ice Dragon, time this carefully between his Lake Town mechanics and you'll be fine. But if you don't, you're in trouble. Passives. Obviously, these are very important. I'm going to tell you which ones to get. There is a class guide on the channel regarding the Dragon Knight, so you can go through that video if you want. There might be some minor changes along the way, but that was pretty much set in stone as to how things actually function. Again, any variants from that will be in other videos, and they'll be linked to that video underneath as well. So this will improve the damage of your burning and poisoned status effects, and if you apply burning or poisoned, you will get 1000 magicka and stamina back once every 3 seconds minimum. So basically just keep up your burning and poison statuses. When you deal direct damage with Ardent Flame ability, you snare the enemies. Increases the damage over time of Fiery Breath, Searing Strike, Dragon Knight standard abilities by 25% and the duration by 4 seconds. That will affect this skill here and this skill here. It would affect the banner, but we are not using it. For good reason, we've got 2 different ultimates instead. Increase the damage of your fire and poison attacks by 5%. So at base, we are stronger with fire and poison than any other class in the game. This will increase the amount of damage you can block. While a Draconic Power ability is active, your healing received is increased by 12%. That is absolutely huge. And we aren't really using any. So unless you've got Hardened Armor active right now, you won't get the extra healing. So it is a good one to take advantage of. Deep Breath, by the way, just in case you felt like it, can actually go here if you prefer. It's a bit of an oh shit, big fire, big heal, big interrupt skill. But you will be sacrificing Minor Force for it. If you're in the Infinite Archive with the Wolf build, if someone is with you with that build and they keep activating synergies for you, then of course you can have Minor Force all the time anyway, so you can swap it out. But for now, that's a flex slot. Anyway, increases your health recovery by 258 for each one slotted. If you don't have any, it's useless. And increases your physical and spell resistance. That requires no skills. Buy it anyway. Earth and Heart, of course, is important, but we're not using any skills here apart from the ultimate. So just bear in mind that is something you will have to consider. Increases your duration of these skills. Don't need it if you're not using them, but we will if we're using the ultimate, so you are going to want to get that, even if these are not present. When you cast an ultimate ability, you get resources back, 51 health, 50 magicka, and stamina for every ultimate point spent. Even with reduction to cost, it considers the base cost, so it's always 200 for your back bar. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you and your group get Minor Brutality. If you've got another DK in your group, you can take that from them anyway. And they get ulti back as well, but we are not actually actively using any apart from the ultimate. It's not going to be enough for us to spam it. Take the passive anyway, because it's nice to have, but it's not something that we're going to use a lot. And when you cast an Earth and Heart ability with a cost, you restore 1120 stamina. This effect cannot activate when using the stamina costing ability, but must cost more than the restored value. So, for example, Ignis Shields, when you morph this, Ignis Shields, is a magical costing skill, and it costs more than 1120. Which means the magic cost gives us stamina back. If you're using this, which is stamina, doesn't work. If you're using this, which channels, doesn't work. So it's basically these 2 skills here, or this one actually, these 3. The rest of them, redundant. So don't even bother getting it. This is a waste of time for us. So get these 3 just in case, but definitely don't get that. Dual wield, get every single one of these. Read them in your own time if you really have to fully understand how they work, but I'm going to glaze over them. Increases damage with dual wield abilities against enemies under low health, under 25%. Increases weapon and spell damage on your offhand, because offhand is weaker. Reduces the stamina cost of the skill line, great. Gives you 15% damage bonus to CC'd enemies, and gives you a bonus for each weapon held depending on their type. We are holding 2 daggers, which is why we have got 657 crit chance per dagger. That, by the way, is 3%. Every 1% of crit chance is 219. So for 2 daggers, you get 6% increase. Bow, of course, we're taking advantage of the bow. You're going to want these passives. Increase your damage done by 5% against enemies 15 meters or closer. So the closer, the stronger. But at long range, the further away, the higher crit chance. So you get 1, 3, 1, 4 for that instead of none. So the further away, higher crit, closer, more damage. Increases your crit chance rating by 1, 3, 4, 1 as well, just for having a bow, but it does need to be on that bar. Reduces the stamina cost of the bow skill line. When you deal damage with a light or heavy attack, you actually stack up bonuses of 5% extra damage to bow skills. That can go up to 25%, but you do have to maintain lights and heavies with that weapon in order to benefit from it. If you stop firing lights or heavies with that weapon after 5 seconds, of course it's going to fall off. And if you dodge roll with your bow, you run faster for 4 seconds. Bear in mind, if you keep dodging too often, you will increase the cost. We are using 1 piece of light, 5 medium, and 1 heavy. We are full 5-1-1 Undaunted. Get all of these passives as soon as you can. They are all going to benefit you, especially this pen bonus here. Very, very nice. You've got spell crit rating. You've got reduction of effectiveness of snares applied to you. You've got mag recovery, reduction to cost, spell resistance, all sorts of different bonuses. For the medium stuff, you've got crit damage, flat weapon and spell damage, reduction to cost for dodge rolls, reduction to cost for skills, movement speed enhancement, all the agility type stuff. And for heavy armor, you've got extra resistances, extra health, health recovery, resource management, return if you get hit, and of course heal and receive bonuses. These are minimal bonuses when it comes to the 1 piece each, with it being light and heavy, and medium is obviously more impactful for us, but you are going to want them all. Again, read through them in your own time if you want to. There are pluses and minuses to all 3 different armor types, but we are definitely taking advantage of all 3 of them. Soul Magic, you do have some passives here that you can take advantage of, but you're rarely going to see them. So if you get them, you get them. If you don't, you don't. Fighters Guild, obviously, we are taking advantage of the Beast Trap occasionally. If you do choose this instead of the Scribing Weapon, or, well, Scribing Weapon skill, or Race Against Time, or whichever morph you choose to take from the Sigic Order, then of course you're going to want these 3 passives here. Well, 4 technically. These will give you ultimate for killing stuff on this bar. They'll give you extra weapon and spell damage for something being slotted there. This will get the cost down, and this will do more damage full out from the skills, and also doubles up against players if they're vampires or werewolves. These passives can be ignored if you don't choose Beast Trap. Mage Guild, ignore. Undaunted, yes. This will give you resources back for every single synergy you take. Player synergies will give you 4% of all resources back. Always take the synergies. And this increases your max health, stamina, and magicka by 2% per armor type. We have 1 piece of light armor, 5 pieces of medium armor, and 1 piece of heavy. We're using 3 types, 6% bonus across the board. I don't think we need anything here. No, we're an orc. There you go. Yes, race is a passive. 1k max stamina, 1k max health. When you deal damage once every 4 seconds, you will heal. Yes, that can crit. And you have enhanced weapon and spell damage alongside faster sprinting while reducing the cost. You can choose any race you preference. You won't break the build. You can use anything you like. Yes, even a high elf if you want to. Yes, even that. Yeah, all of them. But I've chosen Orc for these passive bonuses. If you want to use other things, your choice, but these were very nice. Alchemy, of course, medicinal use. Get this passive as soon as bloody possible. There's a video on my channel regarding potions, how to level it up in 2 minutes flat to get it to maximum. Just get this maxed, take all your points out, put it into medicinal use. Once that is done, your potions will last their full duration and some. If your potion is grayed out, you're doing it right. If your potion is not being used, you're doing it wrong. They are consumable buffs. Make sure they are constantly being used. And if they're too expensive for you to use, go farm some more gold. Okay, now the interesting part. How does this actually work? So we've designed this specifically to take advantage of status effects and make sure that we can fire as many as possible, given the skills we've got. So the weapons and the gear have been designed or chosen in order to work alongside all of that. And this is something that might be common knowledge to some or just a surprise to others. We are using a heavy Turk's Pack chest with a light Turk's Pack belt, and then the rest of the body, apart from the legs, is medium Turk's Pack. As you can see here, here, and on the shoulders as well. Divines on everything, stamina on everything. This will give you an armor bonus, a health bonus, and an armor bonus, which is really, really nice considering DK is a tanky and if you put loads in health and armor on them. But if you don't and you run them as a DPS, you generally start lacking some. My main character as a DPS character is usually under the 12 to 15k resistance mark. This is way over it and it's got room for more. So instead of being an ultra squish, we can actually take a punch. But For wearing the set, essentially we want the 5-piece bonus, which decreases the weapon enchantment cooldown by 33%, and at the same time increases the non-oblivion damage weapon enchantment potency by 45%. So any weapon glyphs we have, they have a faster fire rate and they're stronger. So yes, weapon and spell damage glyphs that enhance or reduce, weapon glyphs that do damage or increase with damage shields and all that kind of stuff, or crushes or anything you use is stronger and fires quicker, which means our weapons will do more damage, which is quite nice, although the glyphs damage is not that important in the Infinite Archive because it will outscale anyway, but it will still be a benefit to start with. At the same time, it will fire more often. Now, glyphs have a very high status chance. They start off with 20%. You can enhance that more with your champion points and with your gear and all that kind of stuff, which is why we've got charged on this one here. We've got 117% there. We've got more on our champion points. You get the idea. We have 1 fire, 1 poison to guarantee poison status effect or fire status effect for our class pretty much all the time. It's not 100%, but it's pretty damn high. And since we've got charged on the front bar, this actually counts for both weapons and all skills that we use. Since we've got infused, that also counts for this bar, so both weapons are affected by that enchantment. Stacked alongside Turok's Pact, we can almost guarantee that this is going to fire every time we do a light attack. It's not 100% accurate, but it's very, very, very close. And here's an example of that. If you look at the buff and debuff timers at the top there, yes, you're going to see a set fire off. Don't worry about that for now. Watch very carefully. You're looking for a skull with a purple background, and you're looking for a circle of fire. There's the skull. There's the skull again. Now watch how fast it applies itself. There's the fire, poison, again, fire again, and again, and again. They do fall off occasionally, but the rate of fire is incredibly fast. Now alongside of that is our back bar. We've got the Maelstrom weapon on the back bar to enhance the damage of volley. You don't have to have that if you don't want to, but I wouldn't put the set that we used on the front here because that will get a little tricky and you will end up firing on the wrong bar and it'll be weaker. But this is also infused, giving us a weapon and spell damage bonus of 655. If you get attuned enchantments from the Infinite Archive, this will go way over 3k. Bear in mind, while we're on the front bar, this is going to be stronger. So what you want to do is you want to fire it on the back bar and switch to the front. So what you need to do is this. Fire that, switch to the front. Buff timers at the bottom there, you'll see a sword. Watch carefully, that will constantly refresh itself on 4-second timers. In fact, 3. Due to the double infuse that we've got on the front and the set from Turok's Pact, and due to the fact that this is already firing a really powerful glyph, this actually adds up and we can have infinite uptime on this particular glyph. So we've got very good fire rate on our swords or daggers. We've got constant from the bow, and that controls our glyphs indefinitely. Constantly firing, constantly applying status effects. Remember, just because you don't fire the status effects on the 2 glyphs on your weapon doesn't mean the damage doesn't come out from the glyphs themselves. That is firing all the time. And just to confirm that, you're looking for other damage numbers above the head of the enemy, not just one from the hit. So if you look very carefully at this dude here, look above his head. 2, 2, 2, 2. Constantly doing multiple stacks of damage every time. Now, what set are we actually using? Because you've seen the proc there a few times. This is Tarnished Nightmare. We're using 2 daggers and we are using the legs. Any body piece will do as long as it's not the waist or the chest because we want to take advantage of resistance bonuses. But basically it has crit, crit, crit again. And when you deal critical damage, an enemy basically is the trigger point for that pop. And around that enemy, within 8 meters, after 1.3 seconds, it will deal physical damage to all surrounding targets and guaranteed apply Sunder status effect. Sunder status effect is quite simple. It's physical damage. It hits bloody hard. Focused efforts will dramatically enhance those hits. They'll actually do more damage than the proc and more damage than your skills. And it will apply minor breach on every target affected, and it will give you weapon and spell damage. So every time you apply Sunder, you debuff the target, you hit really hard, and you end up with increased weapon and spell damage. In fact, 100. So that is essential to the build to have this particular one on the front bar, and all you need to do is hit stuff. Just don't spend too much time on the back bar. You'll need it, yes, but don't be there all day. Slimecore Mask in medium, because we want the crit chance. If you don't want the crit chance, use something with resistances. You can be tankier if you want. Absolutely fine. Now, Tarnish is on the 1-piece body, 2 weapons, and then 2 pieces of jewelry, with Bloodthirsty and Weapon of Spell damage on all, and we're using the Pale Order Ring. This is also Bloodthirsty, and you will restore 20% of the damage done in health all the time you do damage. All the time, including skills that heal you. Bear in mind, the more people in your group, the weaker it is. So if you are in the Infinite Archive on your own, maximum bonus. If you're in the Infinite Archive with one other person, it's 4% less effective. That is all. So if you're in a duo, you won't notice the difference at all. So, to recap over the gear, we've got Tarnished Nightmare on the 2 daggers, the legs, or any other body piece, as long as it's not belt or chest, and 2 jewelry pieces. So that's your 5-piece set there. Ring of the Pale Order, Slime Crawl, or any mask of your choice, depending on what you want. You could even go with Vulcan Scoria for the extra penetration. It's also quite nice. Turok's Pact, heavy and light on the belt and chest, and then medium on the rest of the body, including the shoulder. Really, really simple stuff. Crafted set. A normal Maelstrom weapon if you want to go for normal, because you don't need the extra crit chance anyway, because you won't be staying on the back bar. This needs to be acquired on vet, but the Tarnished set most definitely does not. You get that on normal. So, now we're going to look at champion points. Then we'll look at how to play it. This is relatively simple. You have Wrathful Strikes for all damage. You have Deadly Aim for single target damage over time, plus your status effects. And you have Master at Arms for anything that is direct, including the pop from the proc set, including the direct damage from anything that you fire, and of course your execute, and of course your landing of all your skills, your light attacks, your heavy attacks, and of course the status effects themselves if they have an initial hit. All these small slottables here, I mean not even slottables, passives, you need to get them in your own time. They do enhance your overall damage, penetration, and status chance, so you got to get all these. But at the same time, the 4th one we've got is actually Ironclad. You want a little bit of protection in there. Make sure you get this as soon as possible. That will help you a lot in the Infinite Archive alongside these, because you are going to be getting hit all the time. If you get to a point where you're in much later arcs and you feel too squishy, you might need to sacrifice some of these damage bonuses for more mitigation bonuses down here, but that is your choice. You can switch them between rounds. Yes, it's going to cost you, but you can if you want to. In the green tree, completely irrelevant. None of this is any good to us apart from perhaps Steed's Blessing, which helps you run faster between fights. But again, I mean, once the fight's over, you go for a portal anyway, so that's redundant. This here does allow you to use a potion and possibly not even consume one, so you get the buff, but you don't use the pot, so you've got more to spare. This one increases the duration of your food, and this one increases the quality of loot from chests. You can have those as quality of life if you want, but they're not essential. The red stuff, however, apart from obviously getting all these yellow ones as soon as possible, you want Siphoning Spell, so all kills give you 1,500 magicka back, and you want Bloody Renewal, so all kills give you 1,500 stamina back. That way you can maintain both your stam pool and your mag pool while heavy attacking if you need to. Don't run out of resources and then start heavy attacking. Heavy attack pretty much all the time that you can in order to maintain your bars. Maintain it, not fill it. Extra health, extra armor. These two don't have any prerequisites, so you can just get them straight away. So how do you play it? Well, this is quite simple. If you do crit damage on your front bar, you will actually fire off your Tarnished set and sunder absolutely everything, and that is mental, so you got to be close. But essentially, you want to keep damage over time on everything. Every single one of these skills can fire off status effects if you're lucky, so it can be a really big mess of physical, poison, magic, bleed, so hemorrhage, and then you've got fire as well from burning. You've got like 5 different status effects without even getting any extra buffs and bonuses yet. So it's pretty mad. But focused efforts obviously are key. Focused efforts, physical stuff, and physical crit. But all you need to do is keep volley down on target at all time. You want the breath on target at all time. And you want poison injection on target at all time. After that, if you can put the front bar dots on them at the same time as firing off your throwing dagger, great. But if not, just make sure that if they're low health, you're spinning to win. So basically, you should look like this. Keep that up. Poison injection any targets that are coming close to you. And keep the breath up. The rest of the time, spam this while keeping dots on multiple targets so that status does its work. If you get in trouble, fire ultimate. Always put Soul Trap on something that's going to die, because that way when they do die, you fill your bars up. That can feel quite complex, but once you get used to it and you start tracking individual targets, you will do very, very well. Remember, Soul Trap fills your bar and gives you a heal. The rest of the stuff is just status and buffs. This is not an easy to use build, but it will perform very, very well in the right hands. Keep up your buffs, which is basically that. Keep up your dots. And spam the crap out of stuff while maintaining those long, long dots on multiple targets at a time. Because the dots are so long, you've got plenty of time to spam in between if you need to. And again, when they're low, spin to win and carry on. Always keep volley running. If volley ever runs out, you are wrong because you will lose this massive weapon and spell damage glyph. You need to be on your front as soon as possible, but you need to keep this firing. So, I guess you want to know how to dress up as Batman. Fashion time. So, we are using a whole set of the same thing, actually. This is the Shardborn helmet. It's in heavy. This is Shardborn chest in heavy. Shardborn shoulders, hands, belt, legs, feet. Shardborn sword, alongside another Shardborn sword, alongside a Shardborn bow. The whole thing is Shardborn heavy swords and bow. Now, the colors, strictly speaking, are black and Daedric red, and you can set them up however you want, but if you can see here, they are kind of left to right, dark to light. So black on the inside, kind of shady grey on the inside. And then you'll look like Batman. Armored Batman. Anyway, people, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you now understand how to use the build. It is complicated, but once you get into it, this hits very, very hard, especially alongside a tank partner. I'd recommend the Almost Immortal Warrior Infinite Archive version, but that would be me being one-sided. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.